Thank you for joining your desert frontiersman Alan for more lost gold stories. Please leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe. Relax and enjoy. Deep in the rugged wilderness of Arizona, amidst the towering pines and rocky crags of the Massacre Mountains, lies a mystery that has endured for over a century. It is the tale of the lost Tonto Apache gold mine, a source of incredibly rich gold ore that has captivated the imaginations of prospectors, treasure hunters, and adventurers alike. The story is one of bravery, tragedy, and the enduring allure of hidden wealth waiting to be discovered in the wild places of the Old West. The tale begins in the year 1865, in the aftermath of the American Civil War. With the conflict over, the United States government turned its attention to the western frontier, seeking to establish control over the vast, untamed lands that stretched from the Mississippi River to the Pacific Ocean. As part of this effort, the government established a network of military outposts across the region, including Fort McDowell, located some 35 miles northeast of present-day Phoenix, Arizona, on the west bank of the Verde River. Not long after Fort McDowell was established, the government decided to build a military road that would cross the rugged Massacre Mountains and descend into the remote Tonto Basin. This was a wild and untamed region, home to the fierce Tonto Apache tribe, who had long resisted the encroachment of white settlers and soldiers into their ancestral lands. To help maintain control over the Tonto Apache, especially a renegade band led by the notorious Chief Del Shea, the military set up a substation called Camp Reno at the foot of Reno Pass. For several years, this small outpost served as a base of operations for soldiers tasked with keeping the peace in the region and preventing the Apache from launching raids against settlers and miners. The establishment of Fort McDowell and Camp Reno had a significant impact on the Tonto Apache. With the constant presence of soldiers in the area, the Apache warriors began to venture down from their mountain strongholds more frequently, seeking to trade with the white men for supplies they needed, such as tobacco and other goods. It was during these trading sessions that the soldiers and the few prospectors who made their headquarters at the fort and the camp began to take notice of something remarkable. The Apache were bringing with them pieces of incredibly rich gold quartz, the likes of which had never been seen before in the region. The sight of this gold ore, with its veins of pure, gleaming metal, never failed to cause a stir among the soldiers and the prospectors. Speculation ran rampant about the source of this fabulous wealth. Some believed that the Apache had discovered a secret mine of unimaginable richness hidden away in the rugged hills and canyons of the Tonto Basin. However, despite the tantalizing clues and the allure of the gold, few of the soldiers or prospectors dared to venture out in search of the mine. The Apache were still a formidable presence in the region, and they jealously guarded their secrets. Anyone caught trespassing in their territory risked being attacked or killed by the fierce warriors. In 1870, the military made the decision to abandon Camp Reno and consolidate its forces at Fort McDowell on the Verde River. As the troops made their way down from the mountains, they encountered two young soldiers who had just been discharged from the army. These two men, whose names have been lost to history, were armed with .50 caliber rifles, a plentiful supply of ammunition, and enough provisions to last them several months in the wilderness. When questioned by the officers from Camp Reno, the soldiers revealed that they were headed into the wild country around Mount Ord, to the northeast of Fort McDowell, in search of the legendary Tonto Apache gold mine. The officers were shocked by the audacity of the two soldiers. They warned them of the grave dangers they would face, venturing into Apache territory on such a mission. The warriors, they said, would shoot the soldiers on sight if they were caught anywhere near the hidden mine. But the two soldiers were not to be dissuaded. They shouldered their rifles and set off into the brush-covered hills of the Ord Range, their hearts full of hope. As the soldiers made their way into the wilderness, the officers from Camp Reno could only watch them go, shaking their heads at the folly of youth and the allure of gold. Years passed, and no word ever emerged from the rugged hills and canyons to indicate the fate of the two soldiers. The Apache, under the leadership of the legendary warrior Geronimo and other famous chiefs, continued to raid ranches and mining camps throughout the region, defying the best efforts of the military to subdue them. It wasn't until 1886, after years of bloodshed and conflict, that the Apache were finally rounded up and forced onto reservations, their days of raiding and resistance at an end. But even then, the fate of the two soldiers who had ventured into the Mount Ord country remained a mystery, their names forgotten and their disappearance unexplained. 5 years later, in 1891, a clue to the soldiers' fate finally emerged. Two sheepherders, driving their flocks down from the high country, stumbled upon a grim scene on a rocky ridge on the northern slopes of Mount Ord. There, scattered among the boulders and the scrub brush, lay 5 skeletons, bleached white by the sun and picked clean by scavengers. 2 of the skeletons were clad in the tattered remnants of military uniforms. As the sheepherders investigated the scene, they found other clues that shed light on the identity of the dead. Empty shells from a .50 caliber rifle lay scattered in the gravel, and an examination of the teeth and hair of the skeletons confirmed that 2 of the victims had been white men, while the other 3 had been Native Americans. The sheepherders realized that they had stumbled upon the remains of the 2 soldiers who had gone in search of the Tonto Apache gold mine, and the 3 warriors who had fought and died alongside them in a desperate battle on the slopes of Mount Ord. But there was one more discovery that sent a shiver of excitement through the sheepherders. As they searched the area around the skeletons, they came upon a large piece of white quartz, its surface literally covered in a vein of bright, gleaming gold. The specimen was unlike anything the sheepherders had ever seen before. It measured about 3 inches long and 2 inches wide, and it was estimated that at least a third of its mass was pure gold. At the time, a man named Henry Hart, who lived in the nearby town of Chandler, Arizona, had a chance to examine the specimen, and he later described it to others as being one of the richest pieces of gold ore he had ever laid eyes on. To the sheepherders and to Hart, the discovery of the gold ore near the skeletons could mean only one thing. The 2 soldiers had indeed found the legendary Tonto Apache mine, and they had been on their way back to civilization with a sample of its incredible wealth when they were attacked by the Apache warriors and killed in a desperate fight to the death. The story of the lost Tonto Apache gold mine and the fate of the 2 soldiers who had given their lives in search of it quickly spread throughout the region. Prospectors and treasure hunters, their imaginations fired by the tale of the incredibly rich ore, set out into the mountains in droves, determined to find the lost mine and claim its riches for themselves. But despite decades of searching, no one was ever able to locate the source of the Apache gold. Yet the legend of the mine persisted, passed down from generation to generation as a reminder of the incredible wealth that lay hidden in the hills and canyons of Arizona, waiting for someone brave enough or lucky enough to find it. Even in later times, the tale of the Tonto Apache gold continued to captivate the imaginations of those who heard it. In the years after the sheepherders made their grim discovery on the slopes of Mount Ord, there had been occasional reports of Apache wood haulers bringing pieces of incredibly rich gold quartz into the towns of Phoenix and Scottsdale, their eyes gleaming with the same fever that had driven the 2 soldiers to their doom so many years before. And so the mystery of the Tonto Apache gold mine remains unsolved to this day, a tantalizing puzzle that has never been fully unraveled. Somewhere in the rugged hills and canyons of Arizona, there may still lie a fortune in gold, waiting for someone to claim it for their own. But even if the mine is never found, its legend will endure, a reminder of a time when the West was still wild and untamed, and when brave men and women risked everything in the pursuit of their dreams. It is a story that speaks to the deepest yearnings of the human heart, the desire for wealth, for adventure, and for a place in the annals of history. Thank you for listening to this Southwest desert story. Treasures of untold riches lie shrouded behind the veil of America's mythic Southwest. From abandoned bandit loot to the fantastical El Dorado itself, few tales entice adventurous souls quite like that of an undiscovered bonanza. And deep within Arizona's rugged Verde River country rests one legendary mine that continues to captivate those seeking fortune and glory. In the remote and rugged Arizona high country lies the site of a legendary lost Apache gold mine. Though its exact location remains a mystery, the story of this rich vein of gold quartz endures as an intriguing tale of the old American Southwest. This fabled lode was reported by even one of the most famous Apache leaders, the great Geronimo himself. As he took his final breath in 1909, so too did the secret location of an extraordinarily rich vein of gold quartz. First discovered by his forefathers centuries ago, the mine was taken from native hands by Spanish conquistadors bent on expanding their New World plunder. En route to Zuni Pueblos in New Mexico, they came upon the strange Apache's marvelous golden quarry and turned their army into one of miners. Attracted by the pure quality of the gold ore, 6 of the Spanish troops decided to stay behind and take over the mine workings. Near a spring emerging from under a large boulder at the base of a soaring cliff, the men constructed facilities like a stone house, rock wall, smelting furnace, and gold processing equipment to work the site in the narrow canyon. The Apaches deeply resented the uninvited Spaniards' presence on their traditional lands. They frequently assaulted the mine by direct raids or rolling massive boulders down from the towering canyon walls onto the operations below. Heavily armed, the Spanish knew leaving behind such profitable gold would be madness. As they burrowed deeper, the quartz quality improved to nearly 50% pure gold. After many months and accumulating substantial smelted gold, the soldiers opted to transport their haul back to Mexico to bring reinforcements for safer mining. But while hastily fleeing, they failed to properly secure the canyon's entrance. Descending Apache warriors launched a surprise attack, killing over half the men. The 2 surviving Spaniards buried the gold bars back inside the tunnels and managed to escape on horseback. They eventually returned to Mexico, but were unable to ever retrieve their buried treasure or rediscover the secluded mine. However, the pair left behind a crude map and mining records that may still hold clues to finding this legendary bonanza. In his later years, the Apache warrior Geronimo allegedly used knowledge of the mine's whereabouts in bargaining for his release from American captivity, though he refused to reveal the exact site. Today, some still believe it could lie near Sycamore Canyon, based on Mexican versions of the tale that describe nearby terrain features. Although the troves of Spanish bullion remain more fable than fact, for spirited explorers, the allure of this lost mine endures. Thank you for joining me on this Southwest journey. Welcome to another episode of the Southwest Desert. Today, we're diving into the fascinating tale of the lost mines of the Peraltas, a story of gold, greed, and deadly conflict in the rugged Superstition Mountains of Arizona. Our story begins in 1846, when the silver mines owned by the noble Peralta family in Chihuahua, Mexico, were nearing exhaustion after 2 generations of providing a comfortable living. Miguel Peralta had just returned from exploring the headwaters of the Rio Salado with an idea to restore the family fortunes, find gold in the virgin wilderness drained by the river. Miguel gave his eager sons, Pedro, Ramon, and Manuel, some sage prospecting advice. Follow the river until they found placer gold, then trace it back to the source. And so the brothers set off with a small band of retainers on an arduous journey down the ever-widening Salt River. For endless weeks they traveled through high-walled gorges and past boulder-choked rapids, testing for gold at tributary junctions and natural gold traps in the riverbed. They pressed on relentlessly toward the distant horizon, until one fateful day they rounded a bend to find a verdant valley where Labarge Creek tumbled down from the jagged Superstition Mountains. It was here, at the junction of the creek and river, that they struck gold, literally. Their pans revealed a treasure trove of bright yellow flakes, washed down from some fantastically rich source high up in the mountains. With shouts of excitement, the brothers' long trek came to a sudden halt. As provisions were running low, eldest brother Pedro decided to split up their forces. He left Ramon and Manuel to set up camp and build 2 arrastras, ore-crushing mills, while he headed up into the mountains to find the source of the gold. Pedro climbed higher and higher, following Labarge Creek up into Boulder Creek, then Needle Canyon, penetrating deep into the heart of the Apache's sacred Thunder God Mountains. Within a mile or two north of a towering hat-shaped peak he named La Sombrera, Pedro began prospecting in earnest as the placer trail thinned out. His explorations took him up steep tributary canyons and atop the high plateau of Bluff Springs Mountain, where he left narrow crosscuts on several quartz veins as proof of his presence. But it was on the slopes of a black-topped mountain about 1.5 miles north of La Sombrera that Pedro hit the mother lode, 4 rich outcrops of gold-bearing quartz. Excited weeks flew by as Pedro worked these bonanzas, but soon provisions ran low and the mules were loaded to capacity with golden ore. Before heading back down, Pedro created a key marker by driving stones into a giant saguaro cactus in Needle Canyon below. From this distinctive landmark on a rocky ridge, he made a triangulation map showing both the fabulous mountain to the west and La Sombrera to the south. When Pedro returned to the river, he found his brothers impatiently awaiting him, worried about increasing Apache presence in the area. Ramon and Manuel wanted to leave with the fortune they'd already accumulated from the placer deposits, but Pedro laughed off their fears. He was captivated by the thrill of the hunt and the seemingly inexhaustible gold. The brothers parted ways, with Ramon and Manuel heading south to establish a cattle ranch, each taking a copy of Pedro's map. Little did they know these maps would become bright threads in the tapestry of golden disaster the Apache thunder gods were weaving. Pedro returned to Chihuahua City to organize a larger expedition. In the winter of 1847-48, he came back to the Superstitions with 68 men and 200 mules, ready to exploit his golden discovery. But no sooner had they arrived at the river than Apache warriors began to appear. The rugged landscape of deep canyons and countless arroyos provided perfect cover for the silent Apaches to come and go like furtive phantoms. Occasionally, a luckless miner would be struck down by arrows that seemed to come from nowhere. A prudent military leader would have recognized the signs of impending disaster and kept his men together. But Pedro was a miner, driven by gold fever and the reckless urge to search for more. He divided his forces, leaving some men at the arrastras, while splitting the rest into mining and prospecting parties scattered across several square miles around the black-topped mountain. His strategy paid off initially, as the prospectors quickly discovered 3 more potential bonanzas in Needle Canyon and another in Labarge Canyon. Feverish activity ensued as the miners established camps, built a stone hut for Pedro at the foot of La Sombrera, dug charcoal pits to temper their tools, felled trees for mine timbers, and sank shafts deeper into the gold-speckled ore. For many months, the profitable business of mining continued as mule trains hauled ore to the arrastras. But as summer waned, the Apaches began to attack in earnest. Bands of warriors grew larger, forcing Pedro to assign more men to guard duty. Unknown to the miners, Apache chieftains were massing hundreds of braves north of the river, preparing to destroy the invaders who dared to violate their sacred mountains. Pedro's first warning came on a fateful September day when a dying scout staggered into camp with news of a massacre at the Arrastras. Other scouts rushed in to report that hordes of fierce warriors had surrounded them on all sides but the west. Pedro immediately ordered the mules loaded with as much golden concentrate as they could carry, while he personally buried the remainder on the hill he had mapped, carving Spanish miners' signs into solid rock to mark its location. The miners fled westward in frenzied haste, straight into a trap. Apaches were waiting everywhere, hideously painted warriors on bare-backed ponies, screaming and killing in a bloodthirsty frenzy. They drove the miners back against the mountain cliffs near present-day Goldfield, where a deadly hail of arrows and lances fell upon them. After scalping their victims and looting the pack train, the Apaches unknowingly left behind the greatest treasure, the golden concentrates they mistook for worthless yellow dirt and dumped on the ground. Years later, in 1914, two prospectors would find $18,000 worth of gold amid the massacre debris. With the invaders destroyed to the last man, Apache medicine men held council to address the sacrilege committed in their sacred domain. They feared the mine shafts and exposed gold-flecked rock would draw more invaders, potentially angering the thunder gods. So they dispatched a band of 30 squaws and 2 youths to obliterate all traces of the mining activity. For a full moon, this work party labored in the mountains, throwing ore and abandoned tools back into the shafts. They covered the mines with stout logs, then a layer of natural caliche cement that hardens like rock, and finally dirt and surface rocks to match the surroundings. But in their zeal, they left one mine open, a shallow pit they thought too well hidden to ever be found again. This overlooked bonanza would later become known as the legendary Lost Dutchman mine. The story of the Peralta mines doesn't end there, of course. Over the years, tantalizing clues and artifacts have surfaced to fuel continued searches for the lost gold. In 1901, a local cowboy stumbled upon $35,000 worth of golden concentrates amid a heap of Spanish-shod mule bones atop the black-topped mountain, presumably part of Pedro's last-ditch effort to salvage his treasure. The legend of the Peralta mines has become inextricably linked with that of the Lost Dutchman mine, named after German immigrant Jacob Waltz, who allegedly rediscovered one of the rich veins in the 1870s. Waltz went to his grave in 1891 without revealing the mine's exact location, but not before supposedly giving clues to Julia Thomas, who cared for him in his final days. These clues, along with the Peralta family maps and stone tablets allegedly carved by Spanish miners, have sent generations of treasure hunters into the unforgiving Superstition Mountains. Many have lost their lives in the pursuit, leading some to believe the Apache curse still lingers over the land. As we conclude our tale of the lost mines of the Peraltas, it's worth reflecting on the enduring power of gold to capture the human imagination. The Peralta brothers' discovery sparked a chain of events that would leave an indelible mark on the history and folklore of the American Southwest. Their story reminds us of the fine line between ambition and recklessness, and the often tragic consequences when cultures clash over resources. This has been the Southwest Desert. Join us next time as we delve into another captivating tale from the annals of Southwest frontier history. Until then, keep your eyes on the horizon and your dreams as big as the open sky. Welcome to our Southwest Desert channel, where we explore the fascinating history, legends, and myths of the American Southwest. Today, we're diving into a tale that has captivated treasure hunters and history buffs for generations, the story of Geronimo's lost gold in the Superstition Mountains of Arizona. Our story begins with the Apache Native Americans and their relationship with gold. Unlike the European settlers who saw gold as a source of wealth and power, the Apache viewed it differently. To them, gold was merely a means to an end, a way to acquire the powder and lead needed to defend their lands against the invading white men. At the heart of this tale is the legendary Apache chief, Geronimo. Known for his fierce resistance against Mexican and American expansion into Apache lands, Geronimo's name has become synonymous with the struggle of Native Americans in the late 19th century. But there's another aspect to Geronimo's legacy, one that has fueled countless treasure hunts and expeditions. It's the story of a hidden gold mine, supposedly known only to Geronimo and his closest allies. Our journey takes us to the Superstition Mountains of Arizona, a rugged and unforgiving landscape that has been the setting for numerous legends and mysteries. In particular, we're interested in an area known as Geronimo Head, a formidable mountain rising over 1,000 feet to form the east wall of LaBarge Canyon. Geronimo Head is described as a rugged area of about 6 square miles, reputed to have been a favorite hiding place for Apache warriors when pursued by soldiers. But more importantly, it's believed to be the source of the gold that funded many of the Apache campaigns against the encroaching settlers. According to the legend, somewhere within the maze-like terrain of Geronimo Head lies a hidden box canyon. This canyon is described as a veritable slit in solid rock, probably fault-formed and erosion-cut. It's said that Geronimo himself confirmed the existence of this canyon, and Geronimo had always scorned a forked tongue, and it was rumored that Geronimo had never lied. But the story of this hidden canyon goes back even further than Geronimo's time. Long before the Apache chief was born, the canyon had allegedly been discovered by a group of Spanish explorers. These Spanish adventurers, part of the many unrecorded expeditions that crisscrossed the 18th century wilderness in search of gold, stumbled upon something extraordinary in that hidden canyon. They found a vein of rose quartz so rich in gold that they could extract it using only hand mortars. Over the course of several months, the Spanish miners established a small operation in the canyon. They dug a low tunnel following the gold vein into the mountain, set up a comfortable camp, and even built a small rock smelter near a spring that emerged from the solid rock. The miners' ingenuity was evident in how they accessed this hidden paradise. They had to climb in and out of the valley using a rope hung from above, a detail that adds to the mystique and difficulty of locating this legendary site. But the Spanish miners weren't alone in their discovery. Apache scouts had been aware of their presence from the beginning, watching and waiting for the right moment to strike. The Apaches knew that the Spaniards' obsession with gold often led them to be careless about their safety. The Apache bided their time, waiting for the miners to exhaust their supply of gunpowder in blasting operations. When that day finally came, and the miners prepared to leave with their golden treasure, the Apache made their move. In a swift and brutal attack, the Apache surrounded the rim of the sunken valley. They rained arrows down on the panic-stricken miners and rolled huge boulders over the cliffs to complete the massacre. In a matter of moments, the Spanish mining operation was wiped out. But while the miners perished, their treasure remained. According to the legend, a glittering store of gold bullion was left stacked like cordwood inside the tunnel. It is believed most of it is still there, although Geronimo is said to have drawn on this store of wealth to buy powder and lead for his raids on the whites who invaded Apache territory. This hidden cache of gold became a secret resource for the Apache, particularly for Geronimo in his campaigns against white settlers. The legend even suggests that this hidden canyon served as a perfect escape route for Geronimo when pursued by enemy forces. The story takes an intriguing turn when we fast forward to 1886, after Geronimo's capture and imprisonment at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. Even in captivity, the allure of the hidden gold continued to play a role in Geronimo's life. There was a near scandal at Fort Sill involving a plot for Geronimo's escape. The driving force behind this plot? Gold from the ancient Spanish mine known only to the Apache. This incident suggests that even decades after its discovery, the legend of the hidden gold mine remained a powerful force. In his later years, Geronimo reportedly shared some tantalizing clues about the location of the hidden canyon and its golden treasure. He spoke of a certain spring at the foot of the mountain in La Barge Canyon, which he claimed was the key to finding the treasure. According to Geronimo, this spring was fed by another spring high up in the hidden canyon. He suggested that by following the water's path through the mountain, one might rediscover the mine and its hoard of gold. However, Geronimo was confident that no white man could successfully follow such a subtle trail. The legend of Geronimo's lost gold didn't die with the old chief. Over the years, there have been several reported sightings and near discoveries that have kept the myth alive. One such account comes from Charlie Morgan of Phoenix, who claimed to have stumbled upon the hidden valley in the 1920s during a mountain climbing trip up the Apache Trail. Morgan's description of the valley matches the legend. He reported finding scattered bones, an 18th-century Spanish musket, and even the remains of a camp. Morgan estimated the location of the valley to be between 4 and 5 miles east of the prehistoric burial mounds and walled-up terraces in the superstitions now known as Garden Valley. However, in his haste to find a way out of the valley, Morgan didn't thoroughly explore the area and missed the chance to discover the legendary gold vein. Despite the passage of time, the search for Geronimo's lost gold continues to captivate the imagination of modern-day treasure hunters. The rugged terrain of the Superstition Mountains, combined with the tantalizing clues left behind in legends and stories, continues to draw adventurers hoping to strike it rich. There are a few later accounts of gold discoveries in the area. Ed Lambert, a former cowman, recalled finding a chunk of white quartz with gold stringers while rounding up cattle at the head of Needle Canyon. Similarly, Wallace McDonald, a cowboy working for a local ranch, unknowingly picked up gold-rich rocks while herding cattle through the same canyon. These stories serve to keep the legend alive, suggesting that there may indeed be undiscovered riches hidden in the depths of the Superstition Mountains. As we conclude our tale, it's clear that the legend of Geronimo's lost gold is more than just a tale of hidden treasure. It's a story that intertwines the history of the Apache people, the Spanish conquistadors, and the American West. It speaks to the enduring allure of gold and the lengths to which people will go in pursuit of wealth. Whether or not the golden hoard exists as described in the legend, the story of Geronimo's lost gold has left an indelible mark on the folklore of the American Southwest. It continues to inspire exploration, fuel imagination, and remind us of the complex history that shaped this rugged and beautiful landscape. Perhaps someday the mysteries of the Superstition Mountains will be unveiled. But until then, the legend of Geronimo's lost gold will continue to captivate and intrigue us, a testament to the enduring power of myth and the allure of hidden treasures. Thank you for joining us on this journey through legend and history. Until next time, keep exploring, keep wondering, and who knows, you might just stumble upon a legend of your own. I hope you enjoyed these Southwest adventures. If you would like to help support my channel and time, hit the super thanks heart icon on the bottom of the video and contribute. This is very helpful. Happy trails.